workshop. Now, for those of you who've looked at my videos before or listened to what I've had to pontificate on, you'll know that most of my time is spent working as a wheelwright. I make carriage wheels. I make new ones, I repair old ones. And on my bench at the moment you'll see that I have an old carriage wheel in bits. And this is one of 4 that I have in bits at the moment, dotted around the workshop. But I'm rather stuck because I'm waiting for the customer to make a decision. So what I thought I would do is I would take the opportunity to sort of show you some of the other bits and pieces that I get up to when I'm not making wheels. Because there's very few wheelwrights that can actually make wheels 100% of the time. I have a number of customers who are in the sort of the vintage retro world, dealers, shops, that sort of thing. And they get me to make all sorts of bits and pieces for them. This is a fairly sort of typical selection of bits. This has come from a customer who has a vintage shop in London. He's given me 3 lights that he wants me to make into practical lamps. So the first one is a nice easy one. We just need to rewire it and put a lamp holder on the top. This second one is a moderately interesting one. This is an original lamp, but he wants made practical again. Unfortunately, the cable would have come up through the centre, and there's all sorts of reasons why we can't do that, but we'll worry about that one later. And the third one, which looks really simple, is actually going to be the most challenging of the 3, is this right angle bracket. So what I should do is I shall take you through step by step to see how I deal with them all. So let's start with the easy one. Now the first thing I have to say is if you don't know what you're doing, don't go anywhere near this kind of work. Leave it to those who do, because if you get it wrong you can kill someone. I've spent 35 years in the lighting business before I became a wheelwright, so I think it's fair to say I know what I'm doing. So let's look at this. Now this is going to be a nice easy one. This was originally a lamp. It's in a condition that's how the customer likes it. It's made out of what I'm guessing is brass. It's got a lamp holder on the top, but it doesn't comply with modern legislation, not the least of which is because none of it is earth. So this was designed for 2-core wiring, and that's not what we want. Let's just try this on the top. So by putting a new lamp holder on the top with an earth, life is nice and easy. I've got myself some suitably looking old-fashioned type cable, although it's a modern cable, which we can feed up through the centre. All I'm going to do is terminate the lamp holder, put a switch in line, put a plug on the end, a bulb in it, and that's done. So there we are, that's the first one done. Not very exciting, but it's done. For a few pounds we've transformed what was really a hunk of junk into something which is really quite nice, very trendy. So that's ready to go back. We'll move on. Now this is our next piece. Originally a lantern, and there was cable that would go through the bottom there, all the way up and come up to the top here. Unfortunately, the cable was obviously burnt out at some previous time, and very annoyingly it's burnt out just inside this bit here, somewhere about there. I have had it in bits. Unfortunately it's not somewhere I can get to, and it's not somewhere I can dismantle in order to clear the obstruction. So there's no way I'm ever going to be able to get a cable up to the top of there. So I find myself at somewhat of a difficulty. But I found you can buy, if you go searching, and to find one in antique brass is even harder, this little adapter thing here, which enables a cable very carefully to come in from the side, assuming I can get the cable to go up there. It will need to be a very carefully put in cable, but it will go up, and then I can get a lamp holder on the top. It's a little bit top heavy, I can't pretend I like it, but it makes it possible to turn this back into a lantern. I do have a small candle lamp like that. It's as close as I can get to making it in keeping and still, well, it stops us throwing the whole thing away, frankly. So all I need to do is to wire that little lot together, and then that's the thing, and then we can get round to doing the interesting one. So we come to our third light, which is the most boring to look at to start with, but offers the most chance for me to do something interesting. It's a wall light, but if you want to put it on a wall, the chances are you probably want a couple of them, and I guess it makes it much harder to sell. So therefore, what I've got is I've got a piece of oak. It's a standard piece of English oak. I've drilled some holes in it, I've channeled it out, and as you can see, I've stained it. So our wall light is going to fit on there. I've got hanging pendant fitting which I've wired on the end of our cable. Once I've got this all screwed together, that as it stands is the equivalent of a picture frame, and you can just hang it on the wall like a picture frame. But I think we can go a little bit further than that. So first of all, let me screw this little lot together, and then I think we need to think about what we're going to do here for a shade. And I have a bit of a plan for that, which just makes it that little bit extra. Well, I rather like that, but I think we can do better. I'm sure we can take it a little step further. So I think we need some form of shade, which is where this comes in. I have here, which I prepared before the show, a sheet of brass, about 1 millimetre thick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a circle out of the middle of this, and then we'll turn that into a lampshade. But we'll have to hit it a few times first. So let's see how we get on. So the first thing to do is to scribe out our circle. This is the compass I use for doing wheels. So I don't have a small compass. This is the smallest one I've got. Just showing off really, isn't it? So having scribed out our circle, we then just need to cut it out. Easier said than done, but we can do it. So having cut our circle out, the first thing we need to do is to deal with all those sharp edges. And the easiest way to do this with a little bit of wire wool. I'm absolutely convinced that's nice and smooth around the edge. I can run my finger around there, and be very careful when you test this, just to make sure you have got these sharp edges, and get all of those sharp edges out, otherwise you're making problems for yourself for the future. We're now ready to start beating this into shape. So we've got our circle, and I've got a variety of these. These are just sort of hunks of wood. This is a bit of ash. I've just turned it on the lathe. I've got another one here, slightly different shape, made out of plywood. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere who sells them to you, but we'll work on the theory that you're going to make your own. Now you need to make sure you get a pair of ear defenders for these. So put your ear defenders on. You need a ball peen hammer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start hitting with the hammer all the way around the edge, turning this as I go, and then I'll go in a bit further and then a bit further, and we'll go around in a series of rings. I'm not going to show it to you all on video because it's going to get very boring, but let's see how we start off. And already you can start to see we've got a bit of a dish. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice I've got a little tiny hole which I've drilled here in the centre. The first time I did this, I drilled out the hole ready for the lamp holder. This is going to be our lampshade, and that's the way it goes. So I drilled out the hole for the lamp holder, and it's a 27mm hole. I then went around bashing this like mad, and of course it stretches. And I suddenly found I didn't have a 27mm hole, I had a 30mm hole, which was too big, which was a bit of a shame because it meant I wasted a bit of brass, but I found a way around that. So now I put a little tiny hole in the centre, which just gives me a pilot hole and something to work to. It means I can always find the centre. So now I'm just going to keep going, bashing. I'll go around lots of times, and then it will slowly start to sort of dish its way out, and then we'll start to smooth it when it gets a bit closer. I used to think blacksmithing was hard, but if you do this for a couple of hours, and by heck you know it, it's a shame I'm not making a brass flower really, because I think we could do quite a nice one of those. But by the time we've finished, all of that little lot will be hammered out. We just need to keep going around. After an awful lot of banging later, we have our dish piece of brass. So all I need to do now, well, there's several options. My natural inclination is to clean it all up, but I know it's going for a vintage shop. This particular vintage shop, their customers like it in an unrestored condition, so basically they don't want it cleaned up. So I'll drill the hole in the centre there for the lamp holder, and then that's about done. Then we can try it. Well, there you are. I think that's come out all right. Gives a lovely bit of light. I'm quite tempted not to give it back, and I'll just keep it as a work light for my lathe. It's gorgeous. Well, that wasn't bad for an instant video. Hopefully you learnt a few things. You may want to try some of it for yourself. Not everything I do makes it a video, so if you'd like to find out what I'm up to, why not have a look at my Instagram feed? You never know, you might enjoy that as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Bye bye.